we're going to pull out the sheet. I did send the sheet yesterday. For some reason, I had forgotten to attach it on Sunday. So it's there, and we're going to start with that. But in order to do that, we just have to remember a few lines in Psachim. I didn't tell you to bring out your Gemara's Psachim. I'll just read it to you quickly to get you back into the mindset of what's going on in Psachim. This has to do with Hoel. The Gemara in Psachim was the Gemara of Hoel. Okay, and I'll just read it quickly so to remind you, because you'll hopefully remember it. And then we have a Meiri and a Rabbeinu Peretz halacha l'maisa on how we deal with Hoel. Okay, I mean, if you want to follow me, I'm going to just read very quickly Psachim Mem Vav Amud Beis. But again, it's very simple, straightforward. You'll be able to follow me easily outside. We had a Ofe Miyom Tov L'Chol. Ha'ofe Miyom Tov L'Chol. A person bakes on Yom Tov for Chol. All right, so that's not allowed. The question is it Malkus? So Rav Chisda. Well, I'm just reading it outside, but it's Mem Vav Amud Beis in Psachim. But I'm just doing it as a background so we can go right to the printed sheet. Again, there's a machlokas whether you get malchus for baking on Yom Tov for Chol. So Rabbah says Eino Loke because of Hoel. Rabbah says that since if guests would come, I would be okay to cook. So therefore, there's no. Therefore, I'm not going to be loke, okay? And then and Rav Chisda doesn't hold Hoel. So Rabbah says to Rav Chisda, so how do we ever bake on Yom Tov for Shabbos? Okay, how do we ever bake on Yom Tov for Shabbos? And Rav Chisda answers Eruv Tavshilin. Okay, and Rabbah challenges him. How could Eruv Tavshilin, which is the Rabbanon, be matir and Isser D'Oraisa? According to Rabbah, there's no Isser D'Oraisa because of Hoel. Hoel takes off the Isser D'Oraisa. But according to Rav Chisda, there's no Hoel. How do you bake from Yom Tov to Shabbos? And he answered Eruv Tavshilin. Says Rabbah, how does Eruv Tavshilin, which is the Rabbanon, take off an Isser D'Oraisa? And Rav Chisda's response was, there's no Isser D'Oraisa cooking from Yom Tov to Shabbos. Yom Tov and Shabbos are Chad Kedusha, and therefore, according to Rav Chisda, it's mutter to cook from Yom Tov to Shabbos. The only thing is it was an Isser de Rabbanon, so that people won't come to think it's okay to cook from Yom Tov to Chol. So they made an Isser de Rabbanon to cook from Yom Tov to Shabbos to protect cooking from Yom Tov to Chol. And the Eruv Tavshilin alleviates the Isser de Rabbanon. That was the machlokas we had in Psachim, whether you say Hoel. So if you say Hoel, you don't need Eruv Tavshilin, okay, because there's no problem, okay? And if you don't say Hoel, you need Eruv Tavshilin in order to take off the Isser de Rabbanon. Okay, so we'll see now in the Meiri. Do you see the sheets that I sent you? It's a Meiri on Mem Vav. It's the Meiri of Mem Vav in this sugya. Okay, I hope everybody has the sheet, and you can follow inside. It's a little complicated. It's a little bit complicated. It's a big Meiri. It's a little complicated. Okay, but again, the issue is getting Malkos from Ha'ofe Miyom Tov L'Chol. That's where it starts. So Ha'ofe Miyom Tov L'Chol. Okay, everybody see where I'm reading? I'm reading from the top of the page. Rav Chisda Amar Loke, Shein Lo Tam Hoel, Kumoshi is Bayer, the Afal Pishe Tiru Beis Hillel Tzaz Devarim Mitam Mitoch Kumoshi B'Yarnu B'Meseches Yom Tov. Remember, we do say that since it's mutter to cook, so they're matir also Davar Shalol Litzorech Mitoch Shehutra Litzorech Hutra Nami Shalol Litzorech. So why can't that work for Hoel? Well, why does Rav Chisda not say the same thing? Since mitoch that they allow you to cook for Yom Tov, so it should be allowed to cook on Yom Tov for something else. The im anu matira mitam mitoch shehu nemar meinyan leinyan kigon mehotzos davar shebaochel nefesh lohotzos davar acher. The basic din of heter Yom Tov is ochel nefesh. And therefore, you're only allowed to cook or light a fire for Yom Ochel Nefesh. You're only allowed to carry for Ochel Nefesh. Comes along Hillel to say, mitoch that they matir carrying for Ochel Nefesh, they're matir also for non-Ochel Nefesh. So therefore, why can't we say the same thing here? So Kol Shekain says the Meiri, Shahaya lanu lahatir mitam hoil shehu nemar al oso davar atzmo. So here's the question. If I say that mitoch shehutar to cook what I need on Yom Tov, I can also light a fire that I don't need for Yontif, for cooking. I'm sorry, that I don't need for cooking, but I need for something else. So if I'm allowed to light a fire for something that doesn't need cooking because I'm allowed to cook, so why can't I say I'm allowed to cook food on Yom Tov? Since I'm allowed to cook food on Yom Tov, I should be allowed to cook the same food. It's the same food. It's even a more compelling argument. I should be allowed to cook that food that I would be allowed to cook for Yom Tov. I can cook it for after Yom Tov. Since I'm allowed to light a fire for cooking for some other purpose. So for sure, for the same purpose, mikol makom. That's his question. Kishanu matirin mitoch. When the idea of mitoch, that since it's mutter litzorech, mutter shelo litzorech, anu matirin ela liktsat tzorech. You always have to have some need. All right, everybody should realize that when we talk about mitoch shehutra litzorech, hutra nami shelo litzorech, there has to be some tzorech yontif for it. Because when I carry, so I'm allowed to carry food. That's absolute. That's ochel nefesh. So I'm allowed to carry my siddur from home to shul because it's a little bit of a tzorech yontif. But stam to carry for no tzorech yontif whatsoever, you're not allowed to do it. People think that, carrying is mutter on yontif. Carrying is not mutter on yontif, just like carrying is not mutter on Shabbos. We'll see that in the Rambam. We're going to do the Rambam later today. We'll see that. So since you need some tzorech, hachag, that's when we say mitoch. But but cooking for chol has no tzorech hachag. Kamo shebiyanusha, aval kol she'eno mechaven litzorech of Yom Tov. But maybe there would be tzorech. I'm cooking now, but it's not litzorech. But maybe it will be litzorech. How could it become litzorech? All right, b'knisas orchim. If in case guests come, ein mafkian mi malkos ha'osa davar anasa shelo l'shum tzorech b'yom tov. If you cooked for no yom tov tzorech, you cooked purely for chol. So now, if guests would come, I would feed it to them. And retroactively, it would turn out to be litzorech yom tov. Okay, right? Davar nasa shelo l'shum tzorech yom tov mishum hoil v'hilkach loke uvehasra'a. Obviously, you need hasra. So here's the scenario, and you'll see where the problem is. So the guy's cooking on the morning of Yom Tov, or even better, he's cooking right after he finished his meal. He starts cooking again on Yom Tov because he wants to have food for Motzei Yom Tov. And we come up to him and we say, don't cook on Yom Tov for chol, because if you cook on Yom Tov for chol, you're going to get malkos. That's Rav Chizda. Wait, that hasra, is it hasra's vaday or hasra's suffix?
You mean by the Eidim? They don't know because they don't know what he's thinking. If he's thinking that...
No, he says explicitly, I'm cooking for after Yom Tov. And they give him hasra, don't do it.
So guests still might come. We all know that.
Exactly. It's hasra suffix. Because if guests would come, the cooking would be legitimate. So how can they give him hasra? If you cook, you will get malkos. You might not get malkos. Because even though you're cooking for after Yom Tov, if guests would come and you would feed them, retroactively it's rendered for Yom Tov. So that's the problem. Uva hasra. V'afal pi. Follow me inside. V'afal pi shasra suffix hu. Shabi kansul orchim. That turned it into a hasra suffix. Mikol makom hasra suffix shma hasra. Rav Chizda holds that hasra suffix is hasra. Remember, that's a machlokas, whether hasra suffix is hasra. And therefore, according to Rav Chizda, if we gave him malkos, if we gave him hasra, he will get malkos. Ukeshin is bara shalo ba'ula orchim, the nases melachto shalo litzorch yom tov loke. Okay, so then he goes into a little bit of a tangent, but it's just, we'll see it indirectly in the Rambam. I'm going to read through it quickly because it's a little complicated. But the question is, let's just read it. All of this has to be when you're mekadosh al pi ariyah, she'ena yom tov safek chol, ela shema af zman hazeh. I'm sorry. Bizman shemekadosh al pi ariyah, she'ena yom tov safek chol. O shema af bizman hazeh she'ena sheni el keminag va'ofa berishon l'sheni lo o l'shlishi shehu chol gamur v'achar shesoat she'en bo kavana la'achila hayom she'im kivin la'achilas hayom afal pi shamar Rabbi Yosef michdei tzorcho l'tzorch machar l'dvar v'kol eno loke, because it's going to, because nowadays we have 2 days Yom Tov. Okay, Well, only one day is really Yom Tov. So if Yom Tov falls out on Tuesday and Wednesday, so really only one day is Yom Tov. So if I cook on Yom Tov for tomorrow, okay, so if I'm cooking on Yom Tov for tomorrow, Yom Tov, tomorrow is Chol. Okay, so all right, so it's a that's what it means. Cooking from Yom Tov to Yom Tov could be cooking from Yom Tov to Chol. So let's leave that. Just see what the Miri concludes. Kol she'amrahu befeirush. If he says I'm cooking for tomorrow, yesh lefakbek ba af lekodim shesoad. In other words, if he says I am cooking for tomorrow, the Miri is not sure he should get malkos. Even if it, I'm sorry, that he should get malkos when he says explicitly he's cooking for tomorrow, even if it's before he ate, because he could use it. But again, that's all of this is because of no hoel. V'rabba amar eino lo kehoel v'imikloy leorchim chazi le'letzorach hayom af l'chashin isbara she'ein lo orchim. Here's the chiddush. So since he's cooking now after he ate at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, he finishes his meal at 12. Yom Tov isn't over until 7. He cooks after his meal. Says Rabbi, he will not get malchus, right? Even if after Yom Tov we see the whole afternoon, no guests came, so it's lemafreya revealed that it was not litzorech. So the hoel turns the cooking after he ate. The hoel turns it into tzorech hayom. Hoel v'i kloim yorchim. You will need it. That's called tzorech hayom, meaning cooking for the possibility that orchim will come. That creates tzorech hayom according to Rabbah. Okay, so machlokas Rav Chisda and Rabbah whether we say hoel. Now gedolei aposkim posku b'karabah imashu amru b'sug yezu shemachloktim. We skip that part of the Gemara, but the Gemara has an issue there between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua. Okay, about whether we could say hoel. About hektish, whether you can be shoel on hektish or not. Since you could be shoel on hektish, hoel that you could, it's as if you did. So machlokas there. All right. So the Gemara ties the machlokas Rabba and Rav Chisda to the machlokas Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yoshua. Okay, and therefore, but mikol makom. Those are the first two lines. Just hyperlinking, just you'll know what the context is. We skipped that Gemara, but it's because we started just with whole for Yontif. Mikol makom. Here we are. Im amra hu befeirush. Shalitzorech chol hu oseh. The kibel hasra oso al kach. So he's cooking, and he's saying explicitly, I am cooking for Motzei Yontif. And he got hasra. Yirali, that even though we paskin like Rabbah, that we do say hoel, Yirali lifts up Kirav Chisda, that there he should get malchus. Ha kol shel lo amra befeirush. Ella. In other words, he didn't say explicitly. Ella what? Soad, k'soad, kvar soad. V'haroi makirim shel etzorech machar hu oseh. V'hisrubo. So we see, he ate his meal, and then he goes to the stove and he starts cooking. And everybody understands he's not cooking for now, because he finished his meal. And they give him asra not to do it. But he didn't say that he's doing it for Motzei Yontif. So then halacha kerabah, because at the end of the day, we have a hoel, and therefore he's not violating Yontif. Umimasha Amr b'Gemara Amr le Rabba le Rav Chisda le Didach the Amrit lo Amrin and hoel heich ofin mi Yom Tov l'Shabbos. That was Rabba's question on Rav Chisda. If you don't say hoel, as you see from Rabba needs hoel to allow you to cook mida oraisa. Mida oraisa, you're allowed to cook from Yom Tov to Shabbos because of hoel. Without hoel, you can't cook from Yom Tov l'Shabbos. And therefore, you have to know why do we need an Eruv according to Rabbah. Okay? So, but if you don't say hoel, how could you ever cook from Yom Tov to Shabbos? I'm sorry, I skipped the line. Klomer shalidati, according to Rabbah, who says, right, that I say hoel, ein kan ela iser chachamim, shetam hoel say sofek, v'lo hizira Torah al hasfekos. So there's only an issue of the Rabbanan because they don't want you to be mezalzel. They don't want you to be mezalzel in Shabbos and Yom Tov by cooking for Shabbos without a preparation. Eruv Tavshilin, matirin. So the Isur Chachamim not to cook from Yom Tov to Shabbos. Again, there's no Isur D'Oraisa cooking from Yom Tov to Shabbos because of Hoel. Elot, there's an Isur D'Rabbanan not to cook from Yom Tov to Shabbos because Hoel takes off the Isur D'Oraisa. So the Eruv Tavshilin allows the Isur D'Rabbanan. Ela L'didach, but according to you, Rav Chisda, that doesn't have a Hoel, Heich Eruv Mafkia Isur Torah. We're not in an Isur D'Rabbanan anymore. We're in Isur D'Oraisa because you don't have Hoel, so you're not allowed to cook from Yom Tov to Shabbos. That's why Rav Chisda had to answer, according to me, you are allowed to cook from Yom Tov to Shabbos. And Rabbanan who degazru bo shelo yomru ofin miyom tov l'chol. And it's only an issue the Rabbanan that you don't want to make a mistake and think that if you're cooking from Yom Tov to Shabbos, people will say you can cook from Yom Tov to Chol, and therefore they made an issue the Rabbanan, and that issue the Rabbanan is taken off by Eruv. The Nimtza. She'ena Eruv matir al Isur Chachamim, v'hem dochin es terutzo, mifnei shem sovim shaf min haTorah tzorchei Shabbos, ein nasim b'Yom Tov. See, but we don't paskin like Rav Chisda, because we hold that tzorchei Shabbos cannot be done on Yom Tov midioraisa. That Ilchal Nefesh is only for Yom Tov, and you can't cook on Yom Tov for Shabbos midioraisa. So therefore, the Eruv can't help unless you hold of Hoel. Okay, the Kaimilon b'Hachana de Rabba midioraisa, that all of this is the oraisa, and you have to do a Hachana b'Chol. This is in the first parak of Beitza, okay, where according to Rabbah, you must prepare your food for Yom Tov b'Chol, and you must prepare your food for Shabbos b'Chol. Okay, it requires a Chol Dika Hachana preparation, and therefore, if you cooked on Yom Tov, you would be violating the lack of preparation b'Chol for Shabbos, and therefore it would be an Issa D'Oraisa. Okay, so this is clear. Again, according to Rav Chisda, there's an Issa D'Oraisa. According to Rav Chisda, there is no Issa D'Oraisa of Yom Tov to Shabbos. There's only an Issa D'Rabbanan that you shouldn't make a mistake to cook from Yom Tov to Chol, and the Eruv Tavshilin takes care of that. But according to Rabbah, there's an Issa D'Oraisa to cook from Yom Tov to Shabbos, because it lacks Hachana of Chol. But there's a Hoel to take off the Issa D'Oraisa. And we're going to see why that makes a big difference in Halacha L'Maisa. Again, so you have an Issa D'Oraisa cooking from Yom Tov to Shabbos. Hoel mitigates the Issa D'Oraisa. What does Hoel mean? Since I'm cooking now and guests might come, they could come, and then the food would be appropriate for them, I didn't do an Issa D'Oraisa. Elo, what is an Issa D'Rabbanan? Zilzul. Eruv Tavshilin takes care of that problem. Now, says the Meiri, Me'achar pasaktu kerabba. So, Mishi yeshlo behema misukenet, vikvar so'ad. We had this in the Gemara. Person has an animal that's going to die, and he realizes if it dies, it's an avela, he won't be able to eat it, and it's yontif. So he wants to shecht it on yontif, which he's allowed to do if he needs the food. The ein lo bashum tzorich liyontov, but he doesn't need it for yontif. Well, he doesn't need it for he ate already. He doesn't need it for yontif, but he knows that if I don't shecht it, it's going to get lost. So kol sheyesh shehut biyom le'echol mimena kizayet sli. Kizayet sli means that you can cook it in the fastest way. So there's enough time to shech the animal, cook it quickly, and eat a kizayis. Shehu kal shebebishulim mibod yom shochta. Okay, he's allowed to shecht it as long as there's enough time to slaughter it, cook it, roast it, and eat it. The afal pi shein gomer belibo lechol, even though he hasn't decided to eat. He didn't decide to eat. This is Rabbah because of Hoel. Me'achar shetam Hoel okar misham iser Torah v'lo nishar sham ela iser sofrim, because he could eat it, and we say Hoel. So we only have an iser d'Rabbanan. The makam seda lo gazru. So since if he doesn't shecht it, he's going to lose a lot of money. We have a concept that the rabbinic isurim don't always kick in when there's a great financial loss because of the iser d'Rabbanan. All right, and we say that milsa de lo shchita lo gazru, and we say a milsa de pseida also lo gazru. So therefore, af lekatchila, therefore even lekatchila, you're going to be allowed to shech. I'm sorry, right? Ela isur psofrim b'makam pseida lo gazru af lekatchila. Ha behema bria. So what if I have a healthy animal? Am I allowed to shecht it when I have? Am I allowed to shecht it when I have no intention to eat the meat? She'ein shtam hoil nemar. We don't say hoil because you don't need it. Ela b'di'evet v'shelo lilkot. So we're making a big chiddush. Hoil is not a free pass to do whatever you want. Hoil takes off the isur d'oraisa that you don't get malkos. The imgomer belibo le'achilas kezayis af bebriya muter. So he's saying like this: if the animal is sick, so then since it's only a gzeira derabanan, because the hoil takes off the isur d'oraisa, then you can slaughter it even if you have no intention to eat the kezayis. We'll see that we saw that was a machlokas in the Rosh. Okay, but he's saying that if it's a pseida lo gazru, what if it's a healthy animal and you have no intention? If you have no intention to eat it, so then you can't say hoel. Okay, but af bebriya muter af lekarchila. I'm sorry, but im gomar belibo lachilos kazayas. But if you did decide, I will eat. I don't really need it, but I will eat a kazayas. Then af bebriya muter af lekarchila. Afal pi shelo achal. Hoelu v'shash shchita miyadaito le'echol. Saying a big chiddush. He's shechting the animal, a healthy animal. And he's deciding, I will eat a kazayas. So now that's mutter. Because I'm shechting it l'tzorch yontif. Says the Miri a big chiddush. What happens if he ends up not eating the kazayas? Afal pi shelo achal. Hoelu v'shash shchita miyadaito le'echol. O lahachil. He refers us to Meseches Beitza. So the Meiri basically says that hoil, again, the hoil only doesn't work when it's a healthy animal, and you got to only shecht it if you decide you're going to eat. If you're not going to eat, then hoil. The fact that I could do it for Orchim, that's not good enough anymore. It's a very fine line here when I use hoil and when I don't use hoil. Are there questions on this Meiri?
Yeah,
we're going to see when we get to the Rambam in the tour. We'll see more halacha l'maisa. This is background. Yes.
I didn't understand why a healthy animal is different from other malachot that we can do on Yom Tov, that we might have guests or we might eat it, but I'm thinking about Shabbat.
Again, apparently he's speaking here where it's very late in the afternoon, and there's only enough time to eat one kazayas bitzli. So there's not enough time for guests.
I see. So if that doesn't hold, notice if I'm not planning to have that one kazayas bitzli, then this doesn't work.
Exactly. But in an animal of pseida, we do activate, since it's only an isur d'Rabbanan, we're going to let you because of pseida. Okay, and the chiddush of the Meiri at the end is that as long as you decided you're going to eat a kazayis, you're allowed to shecht, even if you end up not eating a kazayis in a healthy animal. Okay, chiddush of the Meiri. Okay, we'll see and when we get to the tour Beis Yosef, we'll see whether we pass it. Okay, now Rabbeinu Peretz, very important Rabbeinu Peretz. Again, he quotes the Gemara. L'didachti amad lo amrin in hoil heichofim miyom tov l'Shabbos. So Omeri. Halacha Kemandi Amar Ein Ofin Miyom Tov L'Shabbos. That is Rabbah. Ein Ofin Miyom Tov L'Shabbos. Ella Mishum Hoel. The only reason you would be allowed to cook from Yom Tov to Shabbos is because of Hoel Likloi Orchim. The Afilu Os Eruv Tavshilin. Right? The Im Kain Yesh. 1 second. Ein Ofin Miyom Tov L'Shabbos. Ella Mishum Hoel. The Afilu Os Eruv Tavshilin. Meaning, in theory, there would be an isser. If there wouldn't be hoil, what that says is a tricky line here. If there wouldn't be hoil, Eruv Tavshilin wouldn't help. Why wouldn't Eruv Tavshilin help? Because without hoil, according to Rabbah, there's an isser d'oraisa. So without hoil, there's an isser d'oraisa. Eruv Tavshilin can't take off an isser d'oraisa. It's only because of hoil. Therefore, in Cain, now look at the ramifications, and this is something we have to worry about because of our Eruv Tavshilin. Yesh li hizoyer biyom tov shachal lios be'erev Shabbos. You made an Eruv Tavshilin. Shelo lasot shum hachana kol kach somuch l'shach hashecha shelo yuchlu orchim lovo michutz la'ir lechol kigon im lanu chutz lechol. Meaning, if there's no possibility of orchim coming, usually what would mean is you cook very late in the afternoon, then you don't have a hoil anymore. And if you don't have a hoil, you have an isur d'oraisa. And if you have an isur d'oraisa, the eruv doesn't help. This is going to be, we'll see this is halacha l'maisa. when you make an Eruv Tavshilin, okay, right? It's gonna probably be very relevant to some of us on Rosh Hashanah. Okay, so this year Rosh Hashanah comes out on Shabbos, but there are years where Rosh Hashanah comes out Thursday, Friday. So we need an Eruv Tavshilin. Okay, and by the way, we'll talk about the idea. Wait, Rosh Hashanah is Thursday, Friday. When are we making the Eruv Tavshilin? Well, you guys Pesach. Here, you guys had Pesach in Chutz La'aretz. You had a Yom Tov Thursday, Friday. When did you make Eruv Tavshilin?
Wednesday.
In order that what?
So that you could cook on Friday for Shabbos.
On Friday? Wait a minute. I can make an Eruv Tavshilin on Wednesday to cook for Friday? So that I can cook on Friday? I want you to realize, I want you to sense the problem.
Yeah, there's a problem there.
You're cooking on Wednesday. You're Kilu saying, I'm starting my cooking for Shabbos on Wednesday so that I can cook on Friday. So it works. Obviously it works. But there's a huge chiddush we'll see in the Torah. There's a huge chiddush that comes out from that, according to some Rishonim. Chutz La'aretz.
Yeah, the steak of the Yoma is very problematic here.
No, that's not the issue.
It might be a Yom Chol. The second day Yom Tov might be Yom Chol.
Oh, good. So then I'm certainly allowed to cook for Shabbos.
Right.
Then I'm for sure allowed to cook for Shabbos. I don't need an Eruv to cook for Shabbos.
No. Why am I doing that in Eruv?
Because maybe Friday is Yom Tov. So so here's the problem. I'm doing an Eruv on Wednesday so that I can cook on Friday.
But what's the problem?
Yom Tov. Are you following? I'm doing the Eruv separated from the day that I'm doing the cooking. The opposite, Daniel, you raised the problem. Sake of the Yoma. I'm doing an Eruv on Wednesday. Maybe Thursday is Chol, and it's only Friday that I'm not allowed to, that I need the Eruv. So I did the Eruv 2 days before I needed the Eruv. Is that okay?
No, it's Techilas Bishulo.
On Wednesday for Friday?
Why not?
Okay. So now look at the ramifications of that. We'll see there's a Rishon that says this. Okay. So now, Chutz La'aretz. Okay. Thursday, Friday, Rosh Hashanah. No problem. You understand? You do your Eruv on Wednesday for Friday. Sukkos. You're doing your Eruv when? Wednesday Eruv Sukkos for Friday. Do I need to do another Eruv as long as I still have the Eruv food when Simchas Torah comes? Do I need to do another Eruv on Wednesday Hoshana Rabbah so I can cook on Friday Simchas Torah for Shabbos? Or can I rely on the Eruv that I did Eruv Sukkos? Again, you Chutz La'aretz people have to hear the issue.
You ate your food already. I mean, like,
if you ate it, then you have a din of ibadei eruv. What if I hold on to the eruv? I don't eat it on Shabbos. I don't use it. I did an Eruv Tavshilin on Wednesday, Eruv Sukkos, and I held on to the eruv. I didn't eat it, and I still got it available for me when Simchas Torah, when Shmini Atzeres Torah comes.
We never
didn't we see that in the Rush?
Yes. Now you remember. Good that you remember. That's what we saw. That's what we saw. Okay. Anyway, let's go on now. Let's go back.
That was a chiddush, right?
It's a very big chiddush of the Rosh. Very big chiddush.
We didn't see it in the Gemara.
No, we saw it in the. Oh, it's only in the Rishonim. It's a shita in the Rishonim.
It's a huge chiddush.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Would last. How long it's going to last? For how many weeks?
Oh, why? You have a hard-boiled egg and a piece of matzah?
No, so can I make an Eruv? I'm just theoretically, if you have let's say Pesach and Shavuos, they both come out Thursday, Friday, and then Shabbos, and Shavuos again. Let's say it doesn't happen like that.
No, it can't happen like that.
I know it can't, right? At least not by Jews, right? But
let's ask Rosh Hashanah to Shmini Atzeres.
Right. Okay. Rosh Hashanah to Shmini Atzeres.
Okay. Again, that's not practical because the food won't last. But
I'll
give you a lamaisa. Let's make a real lamaisa. I know that I'm going to be very busy on Wednesday Erev Yom Tov. Can I make the Eruv Tavshilin on Monday? Yom Tov is going to be Thursday, Friday. According to the Rosh L'chayra, I could do the Eruv Tavshilin on Monday. As long as I hold on to it until Friday and then cook on Friday for Shabbos, according to the Rosh, it might be okay. Okay, but let's not get sidetracked. Let's go back into the Rabbeinu Peretz.
If you don't open
Okay.
up the jar of gefilte fish, if you leave it, unopened, then
You got it. You got it. Okay. The hard-boiled egg also could be maybe. Anyway, so we got the Rabbeinu Peretz saying a very important halacha l'maisa, and this is going to be paskin halacha l'maisa, is that when you make an Eruv Tavshilin, we're basing it on hoil, because there's an issur d'oraisa of cooking from Yom Tov to Shabbos. So therefore, you have to activate hoil. There has to be a real hoil. So if you start cooking if you're going to come home on Rosh Hashanah, second day Rosh Hashanah, very long davening, and you don't get into the kitchen until a half an hour before Shabbos, you can't put up a cholent a half hour before Shabbos. It's got to be cooked in a way, not just that it's finished cooking. Hilchas Shabbos requires that it be mevushal kol tzorach when it goes on the plata. We need to start it early enough so that the cholent is already edible with enough time to hoil v'iklo yorchiv. That's what it says here. Okay? Again, let's read it again because it's halacha l'maisa. Yesh li zoyer biyom tov shechal lios be'erev Shabbos shelo lasos shum hachana kol kach somach l'chashecha shelo yuchlu orchim lavo michutz le'ir v'lechol kigon ilanu michutz l'chol. V'im tomar im kain heichi anu madlikin miyom tov l'chavero ha o miyom tov l'Shabbos. How do you light candles? Halo shaykh orchin. Nothing to do with guests. The holo chazi la'orchim. The candles you're lighting, when do we light Yom Tov candles for the second day? Right before. All right, let's say Shabbos. So Friday to Shabbos, you can light Shabbos candles before Shkia. All right, on the second day Yom Tov, it's not a problem. I don't light Yom Tov candles on the first day for the second day. In fact, I'm probably not allowed to. But why am I allowed to light candles from Friday to Shabbos with a Eruv Tavshilin? There's no hoil there. V'yesh lomer de shiny gabe ner de mahani lo nami ba'oso Yom Tov mishum dahavi chashecha v'lo yuchlu liros babayit below aner lahachi muter. Big chiddush that you're allowed to light candles on Friday for Shabbos, Friday Yom Tov for Shabbos, because you're benefiting from it also on Yom Tov. So it's like you cooked on Yom Tov and it was left over for Shabbos. All right, the same way that we say you're allowed to make a big pot of food. And you don't need all of it now, but it's leftover. As long as you didn't intend it to be for Shabbos and it's leftover, it's okay because you're benefiting on Yom Tov. So that's how he explains why you're allowed to light candles. You're allowed to light Shabbos. There is a big question in the poskim. We may come across it if we go to the modern poskim. You're not going to be home for Yom Tov. You're not going to be home for Yom Tov. I'm sorry. You're not going to be home for Shabbos. You don't need to do any cooking on Yom Tov for Shabbos. So in theory, do you need to make an Eruv Tavshilin? If you're not going to cook anything on Friday for Shabbos, do you need Eruv Tavshilin?
I only need it for lighting Shabbos candles.
Oh, so that's the shaila. Do I need an Eruv Tavshilin? If the only thing I'm going to do is light Shabbos candles on Yom Tov, do I need an Eruv Tavshilin for that? And according to this Rabbeinu Peretz, it could be you don't. Because Rabbeinu Peretz says, Melanav Shach. If you need an Eruv Tavshilin for lighting candles, your Eruv Tavshilin doesn't help. And the heter is because I'm benefiting from the light of the candles now on Yom Tov. Okay, and therefore therefore the Eruv Tavshilin can help, but you don't really need the Eruv Tavshilin. It's a big chiddush.
So in other words, that's like it's not using hoel because I'm just on Yom Tov anyways.
Because there's no hoel. There's no hoel lighting candles. Lighting candles a half hour before Shkia on Yom Tov for Shabbos there's no hoel there.
Right. It's just like if I would be cooking still for today.
Exactly. I'm using it. I'm doing a malacha Yom Tov for the benefit of Yom Tov.
Right.
That's what he says here. That's the end of that's the last line. Very important.
It feels sort of like that's something where we look and we see people lighting candles Friday, Erev Shabbos on the second day of Yom Tov, and then we have to lahatir. Right? We have to come up with a reason to explain it. It doesn't sound like if you had asked whatever when very early on, like when the rabbis came up with Hadlakat Nerot Shabbat, do we do this also on the second day of Yom Tov? Sounds like they wouldn't have thought that.
Why not?
Because the whole point of it is that it provides, my ignorant understanding is that it provides light in your house, but we're doing it while it's still day, while the sun is up. So it doesn't really feel like...
Whoa. Now you're raising a whole nother question. This is talked about, Rav Hershel Schachter talks about this, whether if all the lights are on in your house and it's a half hour, the sun is streaming in, and you light Shabbos candles, that's a problem. Because the Shabbos candles are supposed to be there to give light for Shabbos. And I don't need the Shabbos candles to give light for Shabbos. And therefore, Herschel Schechter says, halacha l'maisa, the ideal would be you close the lights.
Mhm.
You should close the lights we should close the lights in the place where you're lighting the Shabbos candles so that there's some benefit, some light benefit to the candles.
So by that, this is a good answer. So by that, it's a good
he's
answer.
talking every Shabbos. He's not talking about Yom Tov. He's talking about every Shabbos.
Is that what people do? I've never noticed that.
Rav Schechter's Talmidim do.
So excluding Rav Schechter, right? For like,
it's not, people don't pay attention. People don't pay attention to it. It's really an appropriate thing to do. It's really an appropriate thing to do. Okay. All right. Okay. Rambam. Time for Rambam. We're going to see a lot of Rambam. Therefore, I see already what time it is. We're not going to finish Rambam today, but that's fine. These Rambams are very important. I made a list of which Rambams we're going to do. We're not going to do every Rambam, but we're going to do a lot of them. So we need Hilchos Yom Tov. Okay, Hilchos Yom Tov is in Zmanim. Okay, I think it's the third section in Zmanim. And we're going to start with Perek Aleph. But we're going to be skipping around a little bit. We're going to skip around a little bit. Again, this chapter deals with the Isurim of Yom Tov. We're going to skip then to Perek Vav, which deals with Eruv Tavshilin. But in order to understand Eruv Tavshilin, we got to understand what you are or not allowed to do on Yom Tov, and then we'll figure out how Eruv Tavshilin solves any problems that we have. So we're going to start with Hilchos Yom Tov. Says the Rambam. Everybody with me? I can go. Sheishes Yomim Ha'elu She'osran HaKosuv Be'asiyas Melacha, because it says on the Psukim of Yom Tov, Lo Tasu Melacha. Shehein Rishon Shvi Shel Pesach, Rishon Shmini Shel Chag HaSukkos. He's talking about the 7 D'oraita days of Yom Tov. So 2 days of Pesach, 2 days of Sukkos, and Yom Chag Shavuos. All right. So, right, Yom Chag Shavuos uve'echad l'chodesh hashvi'i, and 1 day Rosh Hashanah. So we've got 2 days Pesach, 2 days Sukkos, 1 day Shavuos, 1 day Rosh Hashanah. Okay. Heim Nikraim. Those are 6 days. Did I say 7? I meant 6. Okay. Heim Nikraim Yomim Tovi. Those are Yom Tov. Ushvitas kulam shaveh, and the shvita means isra melacha, and all of them are equal. Bechol meleches hashvus hashoves b'meleche. I'm sorry, I skipped the line. Bechol meleches avoda, meaning that's all of what you're not allowed to do on Shabbos. Chutz mi melacha sheit litzorch achila shenemar ach asher ye'achel l'chol nefesh ach asher yochel l'chol nefesh. That's what you can do on Yom Tov. So it's very explicit. And we have to conceptualize this. Shabbos and Yom Tov have equal Isser Malacha. And there's only one exception. The one exception is Ochel Nefesh. Otherwise, all other malachos all other malachos that are not Ochel Nefesh are prohibited on Yom Tov, just like Shabbos. Okay? Dalet, go skip to Dalet. Kol melacha shechayev and aleh b'Shabbos, Im also biyom tov shelo litzorech achila loke chutz min hahotza'a mirshus lirshus v'ha'avara. Every malacha that I do not litzorech ochel nefesh is going to get malchus, with 2 exceptions. Hotza'a, which even if I do it not litzorech ochel nefesh, it's going to be I won't get malchus, and havara, meaning fire. If I do it not litzorech ochel nefesh, but for some other purpose, I also don't get malchus. Why? Shemitoch shehutra hotza'a biyom tov litzorech achila hutra shelo litzorech achila. That's Beis Hillel's statement in the Gemara. Lefikach muter biyom tov lahotzi katan o sefer Torah o mafteach uchiyotze be'elu mishus l'shus. You're allowed to carry your house keys and your handkerchief and your sitter from home to shul, even without an Eruv. V'chein muter lahavir afal pi she'ein l'tzorach achila. You're allowed to transfer fire even if the purpose is not food. The shar melachos kol sheyesh bo tzorach achila muter. Other melachos only are muter if there's tzorach. What are some of those melachos? Kigon chita ve'afia. Shchita, afila, lisha. We don't say on those malachos, mitoch shehutra litzorach, hutra nami shelo litzorach. We don't say that shchita, which is a malacha, we don't say shchita is permissible on Yom Tov, mitoch shehutra litzorach, hutra nami shelo litzorach. We only say that about bishul, havara bishul, and hotzah. But other malachos only directly for ochel nefesh. The kol she'ein batzorach ochel nefesh, asur, those malachas are absolutely prohibited. There's no heter for writing, for building, because they have nothing to do. So there are the three categories. There are two malachos that are permissible for ochel nefesh, and mitoch, they're permissible for non-ochel nefesh. That's bishul havara, and ha'avara, and carrying. There's a group of malachos that are muter le'ochel nefesh, but prohibited for anything else. Shelo litzorach ochel nefesh, like shchita, lisha, etc. And there are malachas that are not prohibited under any circumstances. Okay? So those are the three categories. Halacha he. Kol malacha she'efshel lasos me'erev Yom Tov, v'lo yiyabo hefsed v'lo chisaron, im nases me'erev, lo yiyabo hefsed v'lo chisaron im nases me'erev, asru chachamim lasos osa b'Yom Tov, so now we have a category of tzorach ochel nefesh, which midoraisa is permitted, but it could have been done with no loss, no depreciation in the quality of the food. It could have been done on Erev Yom Tov. So the rabbis assered that. That's an issue de Rabbana. The lama asru davar zeh. Why? I could have done it on Erev Yom Tov, but it's ochel nefesh. Why can't I do it on Yom Tov since it's ochel nefesh? Davar ze gzeira shemiyaniach adam melachos she'efshar lasos on Erev Yom Tov liyom tov v'nimtza Yom Tov kulo holech b'asiyas oson melachos v'yimna mesimchas Yom Tov. It's a protection of simchas Yom Tov because we don't want you to just do everything on Yom Tov if you didn't have to. Because the more you have to do on Yom Tov, the less you have simchas Yom Tov. So therefore, it's a prophylactic halacha to limit the malachos to things that had to be done on Yom Tov. V'lo yelo pnai lacho. You'll be so busy preparing that you won't be able to have simchas Yom Tov. Therefore, they legislated anything you can do before Yom Tov, you got to do before Yom Tov. Umizeh tam atzma. What are the lamaises of this? Umizeh tam atzma lo asru ha'hotzah b'Yom Tov. See, this is why you can't have an Isser Hotzah b'Yom Tov, because Afal Pi Shekol Hotzahi Malacha Shefshel Lasos Be'erev Yom Tov, the Lama Lo Asru Kedei L'Harbos B'Simchas Yom Tov. So here we got the opposite question: could you have taken your siddur to shul and left it in shul? Right? You could have. You could have carried the food to your neighbor's house before Yom Tov. So why didn't they answer that? Why didn't they say, wait a minute, if you could have carried before Yom Tov, you can't carry on Yom Tov? Because they're doing now the opposite. They're permitting it to increase Simchas Yom Tov. That's what he's saying here. Afal pi shekolot sohu malacha shefshal lasoso me'erev Yom Tov. V'lama lo asruha. Remember, midoraisa, you're allowed to do it. Okay? Kedei laharbos besimchas Yom Tov. V'yolich v'yavi kol ma sherotza. V'yashlim hachefotza v'lo yeh kimo she'arav asuros. We don't want you to feel like a prisoner. Not carrying makes you feel like a prisoner. We all know that. Okay? So they don't want you to feel that way. So therefore they said that since it even though it could have been done before Yom Tov, we don't apply that restriction. Because remember, anything that's litzorech could be done on Yom Tov. But we made a legislation that even though it could be done on Yom Tov, litzorech, we don't let you do it if it could have been done before Yom Tov. But we're not going to apply that limitation to carrying. Aval shar melachos she'efshar lasos on erev Yom Tov, ho'il v'yesh ben esek in osim b'Yom Tov, because it's going to distract you from Simchas Yom Tov. So allowing the carrying that could have been done before Yom Tov on Yom Tov, we're not going to apply the limitation of if you do it before Yom Tov, do it before Yom Tov, because that would minimize Simchas Yom Tov. And therefore, the purpose of the limitation, what can be done before Yom Tov, was to increase Simchas Yom Tov. And therefore, prohibiting carrying, you could have done before Yom Tov, would limit Simchas Yom Tov, and therefore we don't prohibit it. Remember, all of this is built on the mitoch shalutra litzorach, hutra shalo litzorach, midoraisa, everything is fine. Everything is fine, midoraisa. But we made a rabbinic thing, don't do on Yom Tov what you could have done before Yom Tov, but carrying, even if you could have done it before Yom Tov, we let you do it on Yom Tov. That's the back and forth balance. Ketzad. Now we'll see some practical application. Ein kotrin, you're not allowed to harvest wheat that you need for Yom Tov. You're not allowed to harvest the wheat because you could have harvested before Yom Tov. Lo doshin, velo zorin, velo borin, velo tochanim es hachitim. You can't do any of these malachos on the wheat, all of which are necessary for ochel nefesh. I have wheat, and I need to grind it on Yom Tov so I can bake challah. Can't grind it on Yom Tov. Velo merakdin b'Yom Tov. Why? Shekol elu kiyotze bahen. Efshel asos mer of Yom Tov. Ve'ein b'kach hefsed velo chisar. There's no difference to you in practical terms whether you did it before Yom Tov or on Yom Tov, and therefore there's no downside to doing it before Yom Tov. But aval lashin va'ofin v'shochtin u'mevashel b'Yom Tov. But I'm allowed to knead dough. I'm allowed to bake the challah. I'm allowed to shech the animal, and I'm allowed to cook on Yom Tov. Why? Everybody understands. At the end of the day, the food you cooked on Yom Tov always comes out, tastes much better than the food you cooked the day before. It's called leftovers. So yeah, I'm cooking it and I didn't eat it, but it's not the same. Fresh food. Challah right out of the oven. Okay, I mean, sometimes we try to bake the challah very late on Friday afternoon so that it can go right from the oven to the Shabbos table. Sometimes there's no time, and so you bake it on Thursday. Then you freeze it. Not the same thing. Okay? So, she'ein lechem cham o tavshil shebishal hayom kelechem shenefa me'emesh uketavshil shenizbashal me'emesh v'lo basar shenishchar hayom kebasar shenishchar be'emesh. Again, I'm not a big mumche in this, but apparently you slaughter the animal, you salt it, and you put it right on the barbecue. That's going to be much better than the frozen meat that has to come from Argentina. Okay, v'chein kol kiyotze be'elu, similar things. V'chein machshirei ochel nefesh sheyesh ben chisoron im nasu mi be'erev osim oso b'yom tov kegon shchikas tavlin, banging the spices, chiyotze bahen, where that's not actual ochel nefesh, but that's tzorach ochel nefesh. Okay, did I see a hand for questions, or everything is clear till here?
When the Rambam says ein osim by at the end of Vav, hoil v'yesh ben esek ein osin otan b'yom tov. Is that the same as asur?
Durabanan.
No, ein is durabanan. Asur
Osim means the rabbis prohibited it. It's an issur durabanan. Okay. And he's giving you the practical behaviors that come out from the issur durabanan. Okay. All right. Now halacha tes. This is a critical halacha that we need to pay close attention to. Ein ofin umevashlim biyom tov ma sheyochal b'chol. So the Rambam is paskening that there's an issur to cook on Yom Tov for chol. V'lo hutra melacha shehi letzorach achila ela kedei lehenos ba biyom tov. Okay, asa kedei lechol biyom tov. The hotir muter lechol hamoter b'chol. So it's if you cook on Yom Tov for chol, you did not do the permitted malacha of ochel nefesh, and according to the Rambam, it's going to be an issur d'oraisa. Whether you get malchus or not is a different question. But there's no heter to cook on Yom Tov for chol. The only heter for cooking on Yom Tov is for Yom Tov. Okay, and therefore, here are the practicums. We saw this basically in the Gemara. Mimala isha kedera basar. Woman has a big pot. She needs one piece of meat. It says she's allowed to put 10 pieces of meat into the pot. To cook 10 pieces of meat when she only needs one piece. On the surface, that looks like I'm cooking 9 pieces of meat, not letzorach Yom Tov. Okay, and next. And memali nachtum chavish shel mayim, afal pi she'en letzorach lekiton echad. the baker needs 1 liter of boiled water. He's allowed to pour 20 liters of water into the kumkum to boil up 20 liters of water, even though he only needs 1 liter. Umemala isha tanur pat afal pi she'ena tzricha ela kikar echad. And in those days, the way that they bake bread is they slapped it on the side of the oven, and she needs 1 loaf of bread. She's allowed to put 20 loaves around all the wall of the oven. Why? Apparently, in those days, the bread baked better because the oven was hotter when there was lots of bread around the walls of the oven, and therefore it improves that bread. And the reason the woman can put, we saw in the Gemara, the Rambam doesn't say it explicitly, the reason the woman's allowed to put 10 pieces of meat into the pot is because the 1 piece that she wants will taste better if it was cooked together with 10 pieces. Okay? They feed each other, they give each other better flavor. Next, umolech adam kama chatichos basar bevas achas. He just shechted an animal and he wants to salt it. Okay, he wants to salt it so that he can eat it, but he wants to salt all of them, even though he doesn't need to eat the rest of them, because if he salts it, it will not go bad. It won't spoil. So he wants to salt all the meat. He only needs 1 piece of meat. You're allowed to salt all 10 pieces of meat, as long as he does it at once. And we will see when we get to the Torah, the reason is because of Tircha. In fact, you know what? I think the Maggid Mishnah says it explicitly. I have a note here to see the Maggid Mishnah. So let's look at the Maggid Mishnah Yud. Because the Rambam doesn't give you any reason for this. He just says it. Says the Maggid Mishnah. And maybe with this we'll finish today, I think. Or maybe we'll get to Yud. Memale Isha Kedei. Brisa beperek Yom Tov Shechal. We saw that Brisa in the Gemara in Yud Zayin. Kiloshon Rabbeim. Because of our Rashba Zal. Kedei sheyochlu mashmani. Meaning it should be fattier. The meat gets cooked with more meat around it. It's better. Lefikach yirali. Shafilu litem bekedera chaticha. Achar chaticha. Afilu li achar sheniach kedera al gabe ha'esh. Mutter. Ad kan l'shona. So now the question is this. Everybody understands that when we put the water, 20 liters of water, that's the same tircha as 1 liter. The question is, I put 1 liter in. I put a piece of meat in the pot. 10 minutes later, I want to start adding more meat. Is that okay? So the Rashba says it's okay. All right? But there are other Rishonim that say it's not okay. The only way you're allowed to do it is if you do it all at once. Okay? Umimale nachtu. Ba'osa brayse kiloshen rabbein. Because of a Rashba, ubilvad sheyiten es hakol kodem sheniach chavis al gabi ha'esh. So the Rashba seems to say 2 contradictory things. The Rashba says the meat, I put 1 piece of meat in, and it's on the fire, and 10 minutes later I can put more meat in. But the urn of hot water, I'm not allowed to put 1 liter. It's on the fire, and then after it's on the fire, I put more water in. The only way I'm allowed to do it is if I put all the water in first and then put it all on the fire. What's the difference? The hatam. Again, everybody see the difference. The water has to come all at once. You can't put a little bit of water and then afterwards put more water that you don't really need. We're talking about you don't need it, okay? But the meat, even if you don't need it for Shabbos, for Yom Tov, you can put it in afterwards. What's the difference? The hatam lefi she'ein hamayim tovim yoter ki sheyesh b'kli harbe. The boiled water, is there any difference in the boiled water, whether I had 1 liter of boiled water or 20 liters of boiled water? I need 1 liter. Does the 1 liter I need improve because I boiled it together with 20 liters? Of course not. So therefore you can't do it afterwards because there's no justification. All right? So when you add when you add the extra water into the pot on the fire, you're doing a bishul shelo litzorech, no tzorech. Aval meikara chatirchi. But if you do it all at once, so then you just did 1 activity, and it's all the same tircha to put the pot on the fire. Filling it up isn't the problem. Putting it on the fire is all 1 activity, right? Right. But the meat, since the meat improves when I put it in later, putting it in later is also l'tzorech yontif, and therefore I'm allowed to put it in later. That's the Rashba. Umemala isha tanur shel pat. Machloket sham v'nifseka sham halacha kerashba. The Amar memale isha tanur pat. Mivnei shapat yafa b'shat tanur male. Again, according to the Rashba, you're allowed to do it because it makes the bread better. The Rabbeinu Yonah kosav shelo hitiru ella b'tanurim ketanim b'tzorim. So some machlokas nowadays whether our tanurim you're allowed to put in extra bread. I think nowadays we would say that the bread doesn't. I don't know. We can talk to the wives. When you bake one challah in the oven, or you bake 4 challahs in the oven, do the challahs come out better when you bake 4 challahs in the oven than when you bake one, or it's all the same? Anybody have an opinion on that? We'll have to ask the wives.
Never asked.
And it's funny too, because there's no argument with challah that, oh, maybe I'll eat it now. Because we all know you are definitely saving those 2 chalot for tonight, or for tomorrow night. Right? That challah is different from the amount of meat.
I'm baking challah on Thursday.
Right.
And I need 2 challahs on Thursday. Okay. And I'm going to need 2 challahs on Friday.
Right.
So I want to bake 4 challahs on Thursday.
Right.
Are you with Eruv Tavshilin or without Eruv Tavshilin?
With.
Oh, I'm sorry. Of course. Eruv Tavshilin. Yes, exactly. So it's very clear. You have to know that. Very good. So you have to know. So to put all 4 in at once would for sure be okay. That's for sure okay. That's like putting a 20 liters of water on the fire at once, even though you only need 1 liter.
And that's even though you know 100% that you aren't having those chalot.
100%. 100%. Because there's no extra tircha of 4 over 2. Okay? And there's another point. It's, there's ein brera. Like, you don't know which one you're going to eat now and which one you're not going to eat now. So each one, you could say, we saw that in the Gemara also. Every time I because you could say that about Lisha. I'm needing 1 challah. And then I need a second challah. Am I allowed to need the 3rd challah? Well, you know what? Maybe I already need, this is going to be a better challah than the other 2. That lets you need them. Otherwise, you would have the same problem. Well, how are you needing 3 and 4 when you know you only need 2?
I thought we said that Harama was a bad guy. That Marim guy who did that was...
No, he was allowed to do it. We'll say again. We'll see the difference. When we get to the Beis Yosef, it'll come back again. That was a great question, by the way. That's going to be in the next Rambam. Okay, let's stop here. We'll pick up the Rambam. We have a lot of Rambam still to do. We have a few more halachas. How many? I have 2 more. Only 2. No, there's only 1 more halacha in Perek Aleph, and then we're going to go to Perek Vav. Okay. Seder. Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. So Bezrat Hashem will see everybody. I always get mixed up on the days. Today's Wednesday, right? Okay, so I'll see everybody
Wednesday.
My Chabura days are Sunday, Wednesday. I just never remember which one it is. Okay. Seder Gamur. Kol Tov, everybody.